Here with me to talk more about what we can expect to see tonight, our CBS News contributor, Bob Schieffer, senior editor of The Atlantic, Alex Wagner, and my CBSN colleague, Josh Elliott. All right, Bob, first to you. Expectations for tonight. What do you think you'll see from Hillary Clinton? What would you like to see from Hillary Clinton?
Well, the bar is going to be very high for her. There have been, as you say, some really terrific political speeches. I think it'd be hard to say that she could have expected more from the Obama family than she's gotten. Michelle Obama really quieted everybody down Monday night when some people were booing her out loud, gave a terrific speech, and then last night she certainly could not have expected more from the president. He not only endorsed her, said he was going to work for her, and said she was the most qualified person to seek the Oval Office. I think some historians might have a quibble or two along the way with that, but that is, yeah.
Who's that?
Dwight Eisenhower might come to mind. But that's what he said. And so tonight, she's going to come to this convention with the main and same problem she had when this convention started, and that is to convince people that she can be trusted to take this awesome responsibility. And I don't know what she's going to say. I know they've been speaking and working on this speech. I think her chances are better now to convince people of that than maybe they were at the first of the week. But that's still going to be the problem. She's got to convince people that she can be trusted, and at least can be trusted more than Donald Trump, because, as we all have been talking about all week, he's got the same problem she's got.
And so, perhaps counterpoint, Alex. I wonder if it's possible for Hillary Clinton to do or say anything tonight that would change anything about how people feel about her. I wonder if then she hasn't actually gotten the best she's going to get from this convention. If you like this list of people who've spoken here already, spoken to her bona fides, spoken to her qualifications, that perhaps that is all that can be reasonably expected from someone. I was on for hours today, went home, watched you guys, Elaine, for a few more hours, and it occurs to me that any talk of humanizing Hillary Clinton, it suddenly struck me. I'm not even. Does it matter? I'm not even sure that it matters. Right? And I'm not asking that to be flip. I wonder.
Yes.
Other than the optics, because put another way, is it possible to gain trust and communicate trustworthiness in a completely highly choreographed event?
Totally. I think you raise a very, very good point, Josh. First of all, the Clintons have been known entities. They've been on the public stage for 40 years. Do the math, that's nearly half a century. Yeah. She has under an hour to make the case in a highly scripted convention setting. I am not sure authenticity and humanity are things you can establish in that time frame. I think she can help the case, just because, to Bob's point, there has been a lot of sort of negative discussion about her character in recent days. So to the degree that she can project warmth, humor, conviction, these things will help in the sort of grand arc of reestablishing trust with the American public and showing people who she is, right?
I mean, because really, and Bob, I wonder, is it trust or contrition? Because what struck me about Barack Obama's speech last night, apart from making the case for his legacy and certainly being a staunch surrogate for Hillary Clinton, was also an acknowledgement for posterity that Hillary Clinton's made some mistakes, and I've made some mistakes, and everybody else has. But it began with Hillary Clinton has made some mistakes. It allowed everybody to fill in the blanks, to decide for themselves what those mistakes were that he was referring to. But perhaps acknowledgement and contrition on the biggest stage and the biggest moment of her political life, will that be enough?
Well, I mean, I don't think any politician's future is determined by one speech. I mean, you can help yourself. You might make some terrible blunder. But I think she just wants to come out there and tell people, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and you can trust me more than you can trust that other guy. I mean, the vote we cast for president is different than any other vote that we cast, Americans generally choose the person they are most comfortable with in a time of crisis. And she's got to demonstrate to people, start telling people, I'm the one that you can trust. I'm the one that you can count on. It's not going to, these polls are not going to flip overnight. But she can start down that road. And, if she can convince people that she can be trusted more than Donald Trump, then I think she wins the election.
Alex, let me ask you, as the case is made to various groups within the Democratic Party, do you think there is much room to change any minds at this point?
That's a good question, Elaine. I think at this moment, the Democrats are banking on turnout. I think the president, he made note yesterday night. He mentioned coal miners and gun owners in his speech. I think that was a kind of ceremonial doffing of the cap to that wing of the conservative base. But ultimately, I think he was putting forth a thesis as to why you need to participate in the American democracy, because he truly feels it's under threat. And their big push right now, I think, is to get people off the couch and into the voting booth come November, because I think the Democrats are well aware of the enthusiasm gap around Hillary Clinton. They're using Donald Trump to motivate folks out of fear, but they're also making the case for the democracy on whole. And so, I think that was what we saw last night and what we'll see a little bit of tonight as well. I mean,
when you stop and think about it, Elaine, Donald Trump may be the best thing that Hillary Clinton has going for her. Because, you saw these people last night, and you saw what the strategy is. This man is dangerous. We can't afford to have the erratic finger on the nuclear trigger. This is 1964, when Lyndon Johnson and the Democrats were going against Barry Goldwater, and basically, fairly or unfairly, saying this guy is going to get us into a nuclear war. And I think Trump's performance yesterday and those remarks he made, I think the Democrats use that to just double down on the strategy to make this campaign as much about him as it is about her.
I was fascinated to see the evolution of the story that has underpinned this convention week. Of course, the DNC hack, and that at the beginning of it, it seemed it could be a referendum on trustworthiness and honesty, and certainly have potentially dire consequences for the Democratic nominee. And then came the notion that perhaps it was a hacking job by Russian intelligence. And then Donald Trump said what he said yesterday, and in a way, it took this idea of controversy, I feel like, Bob, and leveled the playing field. It took this thing and allowed everybody to not just decide how they felt about the story and what did or did not happen based on the evidence we have, but really how that speaks to the two candidates.
Well, people want to be safe. That's foremost in everybody's mind. They want to feel that they and their families are safe. And to have someone that you're not sure of their, responsibility, and I guess the word I'm searching for, their consistency, that might just off the top of his head make some decision and then think about it later. That's not helpful to anybody's candidacy. And I think, it was interesting last night to see the reaction to people around the hall to Trump's remarks. And that's all people were talking about. Some were somewhat horrified. Some were a little bit frightened. Some were aghast. They couldn't believe it. And some people just laughed out loud and said, surely to heavens, no one would propose something like that. And I don't know. Trump's gotten past a lot of things in this campaign, but this maybe this won't hurt him, but I can't see that it helps him. I can't see how what he said would help anybody to make people feel more comfortable with having him in the Oval Office.
How much, Alex, do you think Hillary Clinton, aside from perhaps that specter, the sort of Damocles hanging over her head, like, I've got to humanize myself tonight. I've got to, what's my favorite cookie? My favorite movie, color. How much do you think she will turn a pointed attack on Donald Trump?
Oh, I think that's embedded into everything she's going to say from now until November. In many ways, Bob points out rightly, it's hard to imagine the Democrats being able to gin up any enthusiasm if Hillary Clinton was running against someone like John Kasich or Jeb Bush. I mean, Donald Trump is a very good foil for a very flawed Democratic candidate. I mean, he allows her to just train. She could just run training her sights on Donald Trump at this point. I mean, she won't, because I think the Democrats truly feel like they need to offer something else, and they need to make sure people show up. But Donald Trump is, he is obviously her nemesis, but he is a very useful nemesis given her own problems.
So we have a bit of news that I just want to ask both of you about, starting with you, Alex. There is some talk that perhaps some of those delegates who were supporting Bernie Sanders may be intending to walk out tonight. And specifically, our Kylie Atwood and Hannah Fraser-Champong, some of our CBS News digital journalists who've been out talking to these delegates, have learned a little about this effort. It's not particularly organized.
Yeah.
People are not fully committed. It's a little bit amorphous right now. However, there is still talk of this. What do you make of that?
So I spent some time with young Sanders supporters who are inside the hall and outside of it. And the general consensus that I got from them is the media has focused too much on the nihilistic impulses of a certain, like, loud few. Now, granted, the folks who have come to Philadelphia who are in here, these are some of the most die-hard delegates. I think you could see some walkouts, but I do not think that's representative of where the majority of Sanders voters will go come November.
You know, anytime you have something like this, it has to have a leader. I mean, it's not always to succeed. It's not enough just to be against what's about to happen. You've got to have some idea of what you want to replace that. And I don't think that Bernie Sanders is going to change his mind and decide to get back in the race. So I don't think this will go very far.